How you doing, folks? Steven here with 501 Parts. I had several thousand views on my video that I made on how to purchase a used Rhino. I'm gonna go ahead and do a video on doing a Viking right now. I had a lot of folks ask me about doing a Viking. I'm gonna try to do a couple other machines too, maybe a Wolverine. I've got access to one of those right now. Awesome machine. But as you can see right here in the background, I'm gonna kind of show you a couple things to go over. Got a 2017 Viking right here in front of me. You can see it's pretty dirty, you know, but pretty solid looking machine. You don't see anything too crazy with it. Just gonna kind of show you what I do when I come up on, you know, purchasing one. You can kind of get yourself in over your head pretty quick if you don't know what you're doing. Kind of some things to look for. You know, stuff's fairly cheap to replace on these things, but you definitely want to make sure you're getting a good deal. Here in Arkansas, you can pick one of these Vikings up for, you know, I've seen them for as low as $3,500 depending on the miles and the problems, and as high as $8,500 depending on what's done with them. This one's pretty stock right here, as you can see. Still has the factory tires on it. But what I do first when I'm coming up on one to buy it, I kind of talk to the owner. I kind of try to get a general consensus of how well it's maintained. Does he have any service records? Does he have the owner's manual? Does he have the title to it? You know, these are still pretty new. You can tell if it's been beat up and abused. I mean, this one's been ridden on the road a lot. You can see the tires are kind of ate up, which, you know, not necessarily bad. I'd rather see one ridden on the road than ridden out through the swamp, you know. So there's snorkels on it or anything like that, so that's typically good in my book. I try not to get them with snorkels. Nothing wrong with them. I have snorkels on my personal machine, but I put them on there and I know what they're for and I know what it's been in. You know, other machines not so much. But when I'm coming up on it, I'm kind of doing a general overview on, okay, what's the plastics look like? You know, looking if the floorboard's busted out, if it has had it bottomed out up on a stump or something like that. You know, are all the gauges there and working. Seat's pretty good. You know, you can see here the plastics are generally good. There's nothing really busted up on it. Coming in here, you know, let's pop the bed up and kind of look around in here, make sure everything looks good, like they hadn't, you know, messed with any wiring or anything like that. It's kind of looks pretty unabused. You know, I'll go around after I check the plastics and everything, kind of check the wheel bearings, you know, rock it back and forth. I don't feel any slack on this one at all. I don't feel any slack there either. Let's go around to this wheel here. I don't find any slack there. Same thing here, no slack. And what I'll do is I'll kind of get in here, grab the axles. I mean, you can see the boots, they all look really good. On the Rhinos, we had a problem with the rear differential bracket breaking. I think they fixed that on the Vikings. I hadn't seen any broke. You can see the axle boots are all there. Everything looks tight. I don't see any oil residue off anything. You know, the grease fittings over here look like they might have been greased one or two times on the hubs over here. It's kind of to be expected. None of the boots are tore here. None of the boots are tore in the front. It doesn't look like. Everything looks pretty solid. You know, kind of take and pull on them. Everything's tight, you know. Then I'll go and look at the steering. So take and turn the steering wheel, you can see the joint turning. You don't see any slack. I don't see any slack in it. You know, looks like a pretty solid machine. Of course, you want to check the oil in it. We'll get to that. And then next thing I want to do before I even pop the hood, I'll turn the key on. This is before I even start and run the machine. Full drive. You hear it? Diff lock's going in, it's showing on the screen, it's blinking because we're not moving. That's okay. You can see this machine has 2,200 miles, 282 hours. Not bad. Not bad at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this hood off and take a look under here. Take a look. Definitely original battery, relays. I mean, everything looks pretty good, like it's been you know, hadn't really been messed with a whole lot. That radiator might be a little warm. I'm gonna crack it just to see. I'll give it a little, there's no pressure on it, so I'm gonna look in there. I can see some stuff moving around in there. It doesn't look too you know, clean, but I'll put that back on. Come over here. Next thing I noticed is this coolant reservoir is empty. There's nothing in there, so it kind of gives me an indication that maybe the guy didn't maintain it as good as he said it did. But still, I mean, there's some in the radiator. It's probably not hurt. You know, pull the seats out of it. You know, get everything out and look at it. You know, got a cut-off wheel there behind the seat. There's sanding disc. Kind of look in here, you know. Everything looks like it really hadn't been messed with that much. You know, still got the original tool kit over there, as you can see. He's got a horn wired up on this one. See if it works. Oh yeah, works. I mean, it looks like a pretty good machine. You can see the muffler's not rusted. I mean, you know, pretty solid machine here. Go around here. Well, let's look at the oil and see what it looks like. See, it's kind of, oil's kind of black. If you can see there, it's kind of hard to focus. There we go. Yeah, it's kind of black. I'll smell it. I mean, you know, it smells like oil. You want to make sure there's no water in the oil. It doesn't smell like fuel, anything like that. You know, he's got a Yamaha fuel filter, oil filter on it, which means maybe he bought Yamaha, or maybe he just hadn't changed it since it was new. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of the stuff I'd try to get out of the owner to see if I could find out, you know, what he's actually done to it. So let's go ahead and start it up and see what she sounds like now. First thing I want to look at, make sure it ain't smoking. You know, it ain't smoking. You know, if I can get there when the machine's cold, that's what I like to do. If the owner's, you know, if I tell the guys come to look at something and I get there and it's running, I kind of get a little bit nervous right off the bat. You know, I kind of think he's trying to hide something, you know what I mean? I like the old Yodas, and you know, when you start those up when they're cold, sometimes the timing chain will rattle on them. When you get them warm, it won't do that. And I kind of go back to that when somebody has one running. When I get there, I'm like, come on now, you ain't in that big a hurry. So I kind of start to think a little bit what you're trying to hide. So I'll tell them sometimes, let me start it up cold. I want to move it out cold. So you can tell a lot when it's cold. You know, when it gets hot, the rings will expand and seal off the cylinder. Sometimes it's burning oil. Sometimes the rings will seal off when it's warmed up. You know, everything kind of expands in there and it won't smoke. You know, so but if you start it cold, if it's going to smoke, it's going to smoke right then. So it sounds pretty good. We'll get in here and just put it in gear, reverse, moves, high, low. Let's make sure the diff lock's going to go in. Yep, it did. See, the light went solid right there. Alright. I'm not going to ride it around right now. I'll give y'all a couple tips on it. Just make sure the lights work. Yeah, all the lights are working on it. Let's see. Tail lights. Yep. So, yeah, just ride it around. You want to listen for any kind of noises in the engine. What I typically do on these Yamahas is I will go ahead and take it for a ride, take it for a spin, and in low gear, I'll try to get down a hill and go down the hill and let the engine break itself. Not break itself, but engine break itself is what I mean. Slow itself down. And what you'll be able to tell by that is the one-way bearing's bad. That engine should break itself all the way down to almost nothing. If it starts to engine brake and just starts to freewheel and you hear a lot of racket in the engine, then you know the one-way bearing's bad. You know, get it on a hill, put it in kind of a bind, you know, in low range, four-wheel drive, diff lock. You know, you want to turn it in four-wheel drive, make sure none of your axles are clicking or popping in the front. You'll be able to tell when you're turning. Back it up, make sure there's no sounds, make sure the brakes work. Then go ahead and put it in a bind, like I said, on a hill, and you'll be able to tell if the centrifugal clutch is slipping or anything like that. A lot of times people run automotive oil in these things. You can't do that. You ain't supposed to run like a just your standard Walmart type oil in here. The best oil I found is a Rotella 5W40. You can get it at Walmart. It's about $22 a gallon. It's pretty good stuff. You want to run that kind of oil in there, or any kind of oil that's, it's got to say JSO MA on the back. That's a certification for wet clutches. Any kind of motorcycle oil will work in these four-wheelers. If you run a regular automotive oil in them, it will eventually burn up the centrifugal clutch and the drum, and you'll be replacing that. So a lot of people don't know that. So if your clutch got any slipping in it, ask a guy, hey, what kind of oil you put in this thing? You know, if he says he run regular oil in it, I mean, it's not a huge job to replace that, but you know, it's a little bit of work. You got to pull the belt off, the clutch drum, the cover, and all that stuff out of there and do it. And you might as well do the one-way bearing while you're in there. But I hope y'all got something out of this video, and I'm gonna do another video next week, probably on a Wolverine, kind of the same thing. But if I can answer any questions, just ask them down below, or subscribe to us if you like what we're doing. We appreciate you watching. Have a good one.